So Woj mentioned the Ben Simmons situation. Here is his tweet about it. And I thought this was interesting. He says, Clutch CEO Rich Paul and Simmons are in step with a move elsewhere. His tweet also said what you just heard him talk about, that it could be draft night or it could go into the summer. What do you make of that?
I make of it that they're having a tough time finding a trade right now that's going to satisfy the Sixers, and everyone's started to prepare themselves for what it might mean if Ben Simmons is still on the roster in September, whenever everyone reports to camp. It may be a little awkward.
Well, and it's just silly. Like, you can't just say what you've said about a player, not that the team has, but all of these things that are out there, you think you need a new spot for him. So go find a new spot for him. If the best offers are the best offers, then you got to take it.
He's going to be as valuable now to an opposing team as he will be mid-season.
You think he's going to have a better season? Or, I'm not better, but...
I think he will be better in the regular season than he was in the playoffs, yes.
I think they could definitely change their team in a way that would make that possible. It's just a matter of, is the toothpaste too far out of the tube now?
That's a great term.
I didn't make it up.
The toothpaste out, you can't get it back in.
Can't get it back in. There you go. You got that.
I like that one.
I feel like this is like a reading.
Try it tonight. Try it tonight at home. Try and get it back.
Take a look. It's in a book. The reading rain. LeVar Burton, he's hosting Jeopardy. Check that out.
This was supposed to be a Ben Simmons segment, but welcome.
Love
to the show.
LeVar.
We'll be back in a minute.
Come on, Jordy. Love it. Do you not like
I need some of those too.
I feel we could make this into a top 10 list from a top 5. That might be a challenge for the guys for later in the week. But first, we got to get to this because, gentlemen, we are 1 week away from free agency, which means between that and the draft, it is also trade season. Ben Simmons, of course, a name that's been on the lips of a lot of front office folks around the league. In fact, Woj reporting trade talks around Simmons are expected to indeed heat up this week. So, Tim, what is the best situation for Ben Simmons? And on the flip side, your old friend Daryl Morey, in terms of the Sixers, what they want to get out of this.
The situation, the scenario that's always made sense for me is some sort of CJ McCollum for Ben Simmons framework. And they can argue about, who has to throw in what. But I think CJ McCollum would give the Sixers that scoring, kind of secondary playmaking guard who could really help Joel Embiid. And I want to see Ben Simmons in more of a Draymond Green role. Stop putting him in a position where he's the primary playmaker, where he's the point guard. Let him be that secondary playmaker, that power forward with Dame Lillard, an elite, obviously deep-range shooter, pick-and-roll player, great leader that I think could help get his confidence up. Of course, the problem there is, how much longer is Dame Lillard going to be in Portland?
Mark?
Well, David Fredman, I don't know if you guys know him, a longtime NBA executive, told me once, he'd never get too high or too low about how somebody plays in the postseason. I think Ben Simmons is still a great player, will be a great player. He's in Los Angeles right now, working with a Clutch Sports appointed shooting coach. Here in the Sixers are getting a shooting coach as well. He's in good mental spirits, working on his game in LA. He didn't get a lot of time with Doc Rivers. There was no training camp, pandemic shortened season. Just throw
that in there too.
I think you got to run it back with Doc. I know Doc likes him a lot, and see what happens the second time around. I think they need more time together.
Doc didn't like him too much in his post-game press conference when they got eliminated. Joel Embiid did not exactly indicate some eagerness to run it back.
In terms of Embiid, you don't hate on your teammate, man. I don't like that.
But he did, and it's his franchise, and we've got to recognize those as realities.
Is that the kind of leader you want to play with, though?
Listen, I'm
teammates' legs out when he has a bad series.
We can discuss blame, but I just think that it is in the best interest of all parties for Ben Simmons to be playing elsewhere sooner than later. And whether a deal that makes sense materializes now or during the season, I would be surprised if he's a Philadelphia 76er next postseason.
Okay, but that begs the question then, Tim, and I don't disagree with you that, hey, it might be nice to get that clean palette, but at what cost, right? Because Mark's right. The playoff performance Ben had, it left a taste in enough people's mouths that it's a little bit of a sell-low situation. And if you're a franchise, you don't want to be in a sell-low situation. So, Mark, how would you balance those things? How would you balance the idea of getting a fresh start with your team right from the beginning of training camp. If you do bring in someone else for Ben, having Ben out of there, having this new person in there, being able to work the whole season and get some cohesion for the playoffs, versus the fact that you will just probably not get the value for Ben Simmons this week that you would 3 or 4 months into the season when people have gotten the chance to see him work again and succeed the way he did during the regular season last year.
Yeah, no, the Sixers haven't had enough time to take a deep breath and really see if this is something they want to do and not make an emotional decision. I'm sure there's a lot of teams that would love to have Ben Simmons and give that shoot, maybe Ben feels like it's time for me to go and try something new. But I think people need to just calm down. I mean, this dude is still a pretty great player. He had a bad series. Have some patience with it. That's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm an optimist.
And we're back to panic or patience again. Here's the thing. And you don't want to sell for pennies on the dollar. You do need to get star value in return. And you can't. It's not about picks because you're trying to capitalize on Joel Embiid's prime. But you can't be too patient when you have Joel Embiid, one of the top 3, 5, make that argument, whatever, players in the NBA in his prime. You've got a window you've got to capitalize on. And I just think they've reached their peak with Ben Simmons as his co-star.
It'll be very interesting to see not only what move they make, but when they do it. Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. You will be all over ESPN's NBA coverage all week with the draft and free agency coming up because there's like 6 teams that you are in charge of coverage for our NBA group. So thank you for your time today, and we'll see you not too long from now.
Always a pleasure.
All right, everyone else stick with us. DeMar DeRozan says it's all about year. Donovan Mitchell.
Shot. The defense was really good.
Donovan behind the back.
He was so much fun to watch in the bubble. And then, of course, Carrie, top plays of the season. So buckle up because number 5, beating the shot clock. Woo! Sorry, Kings. I mean, come on.
The coolest part about all these,
get watching him play.
It's amazing, right?
all of these plays, guys, you look down at the bench and the reaction was just insane because everybody's going, I can't believe he's doing this again.
Again, number 4, up and under versus the Celtics.
Hey.
This man's got other things in his bag besides a jumper, just saying. Look at that handle,
He's
too.
an incredible finisher, too. He doesn't get enough credit for how he can finish the ball around the rim. It's incredible.
And he built up his strength so much this past season. He's
He
able to
puts
fight more.
in that work every day on all that stuff.
Number 3 beats the first quarter buzzer in San Antonio with a little giddy up there at the end.
The amount of confidence that these guys have playing alongside him when they know he can drop those kind of shots. Juan Toscano-Anderson said, hey, it's like being in a fight with Mike Tyson. You know you've got your guy.
Side. Well, Chris, talk about finishes. Look at that circus layup. Come on.
And let me ask you a question. Is this good defense in everything that we're watching? Every, defense that he's beating. It's good defense, right?
There's 4 guys there. There's 4 guys.
I remember after that game, I was asking him if it was like from the Come Fly With Me video.
This was amazing. I was in the arena for this. Lefty shot versus the Celtics.
Come on.
This is like the Inigo Montoya and the Princess Bride. Oh, I forgot. I could do this with my left hand as well.
Yeah, I'm left-handed
I'm
and I haven't hit a shot
by the way. Chris, that's amazing.
He got on and just started laughing.
Right?
Everybody just laughs at the end because they've seen him do it so many times.
So Steph Curry, of course, look, it's not like anybody forgot about Steph Curry, but there was such a rough Warrior season the season before. This year, he was allowed to be Steph, especially once James Wiseman got hurt and the way they were running that offense changed. And with draft day now just 2 days away, the Dubs have decisions to make about how to build around him. They have the number 7 and 14 picks in the draft. They do have a young stud in James Wiseman. They also expect Klay Thompson back next season. So there's a lot to be optimistic about. But they don't feel yet, oh my gosh, this is a championship team all over again. Just bank it. We're good. There are different paths they can go to try to improve. So, Nick, you are as close to the Warriors as anyone at ESPN. What are they looking to do on this pivotal week? And then what do you think they can do? Because those are 2 different questions.
Rachel, the first one is Bob Myers is going to live on the phone in the next few days. And he admitted as much when we talked to him yesterday. He's saying everything can change in a matter of moments. Everything goes up to the deadline when you're ready to make that pick more so than any other point that he can remember in his career. Having said that, in the end, I still expect the Warriors to make both these picks because there's
Not be able to trade them.
They're going to try. I think they'd love to pair one more veteran with Steph, Clay, and Draymond heading into the new year. But where's that guy?
Right.
I mean, that guy in theory would be a guy like Bradley Beal, and there's been a lot of speculation around him for over a year, potentially going to the Warriors, but there's no indication yet that he would move from the Wizards. And so knowing that, I just don't know who's out there who's going to make them that much better when you're giving up the draft capital that they would have to in order to make that move. So they're going to continue to work the phones. I know Bob and his staff have been on it the last couple weeks, but in the end, when we're sitting there on Thursday, I'd expect them to make both those picks.
What about you, Chris? What do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, I mean, it's such an interesting market. You know, they do have some flexibility as far as making a trade. They're already pretty much capped out.
Yep.
So they won't be able to sign somebody outright. They will have to be very creative in the trade market if they want to make that move. But I like the team that they have right now. Anytime you have a healthy Clay, hopefully, and a healthy Steph Curry, you can almost put anybody out there and win a lot of basketball games. For them, it's championship or bust, and you definitely want to maximize Steph and Clay's years that they have in their prime. But with that said, I think they're in a tremendous position to, you know, really add some 3-and-D guys. They just have to strengthen what they have right now. And if I'm Jeff Wiseman, you know, I know I'm kind of breaking off right now.
James,
young fella. James Wiseman. Excuse me. But when you are in a position like that and you have those two shooters, pick and roll. Pick and roll. I wouldn't shoot a jumper. I would watch, you know, all the tapes I can on Giannis right now and say, okay, how can I finish close to the basket? How can I get as many dunks per game as I can possibly muster? Because if he sets screens and works on his game as far as getting those guys open and diving to the rim, he will make them better. Their team will be better, and Draymond will pass him the ball. So all he has to do is make sure he's working on his game. They need to work on the continuity of what they have. They need to play defense because they're going to be able to score the ball and really just work with what they have and hopefully bring in some young talent. But like I say, look for them to continue to maybe be aggressive all the way up until the trade deadline next year.
Well, first of all, James Wiseman, if you're out there, that is Hall of Fame advice you were getting from Chris Bosh. So enjoy that. And before we got to go to break, but before, Chris, as someone who was part of forming a super team based on your Team USA experience and getting to know guys, do you think that Draymond Green was trying to recruit Bradley Beal when they were in training camp together in Las Vegas for Team USA? Do you think maybe some of those conversations might have happened, at least in the Draymond direction?
Draymond is always trying to recruit. Trust me, he's got 3 rings, and when you have 3 rings, you want to get 4.
There you go. Boom. All right. Coming up on the jump, top 5 projected pick. Jalen Suggs is going to join us. What team does he have as ESPN Radio, ESPN app, and now clearly. And now joining us to talk about the draft and much more, our senior NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. Welcome back, Woj.
Rach, great to be here with you. Happy draft week.
Exactly. And let's start with the draft. A couple of days ago, you tweeted that the Pistons were not, quote, fully there yet on CADE Cunningham with that number 1 pick. Has anything changed now that we're getting in on draft day?
Rachel, perhaps closer, but still not there and ready as of this hour to give a commitment to CADE Cunningham that he will be the number 1 overall pick. And listen, I still think that the Pistons are going to get there before Thursday night. But listen, this is a unique draft, and there are 3 players at the top of the draft who in another year, maybe even last year, would all be number 1 overall picks. I think Troy Weaver, the Pistons GM, and that staff just wants to keep talking through it, evaluating it. I don't think it's any hesitancy they have with CADE Cunningham. I think it's really just about how good they think Evan Mobley and Jalen Green are.
Yeah, it's funny. I just left Jalen Green. We're having a conversation about that. He said, I think I should be number 1, which, of course, a lot of kids think as they enter the draft. But I said, did you tell the Pistons that? He said, absolutely. So he gave them something to think about there. Are you hearing any trade whispers or teams that are particularly interested in moving up or down as we approach the draft here?
Well, there are a lot of conversations, Rachel, about teams who, certainly would like to get in that top 10. This is a tough top 10 to get into. You're going to have to give up a lot. And I think, we saw the trade with Memphis getting that 10th spot. Certainly a lot of teams knocking on the door with Sacramento at number 9. But I think really the big trade talk over the next couple days is going to continue to be centered around Ben Simmons in Philadelphia. Daryl Morey and Elton Brand and their front office, they've been canvassing the league to see what they can get for Ben Simmons, and they're asking for a lot, almost a Harden-esque type package of all-star player, draft picks, pick swaps. Now, that's where you're going to start, and this is a player, remember, who has 4 years left on his deal. They don't have to do a trade by the draft or by the start of next season, certainly, but they're motivated to find a deal out there, and they continue to talk to teams. I don't get the sense, though, that they're close to anything, that there's anything imminent, that they have a team yet that's ready to unload the kind of assets they would like to get at this point for Ben Simmons.
So interesting. I think that will be a story for us this week, next week with free agency, all through the offseason. I do want to get back to that trade you already reported. You just referred to it. Jonas Valanciunas heading to New Orleans, Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe heading to Memphis. The Grizzlies also slid up to the 10th pick in the draft as part of that deal. And are you hearing anything about the Grizzlies in particular trying to move up even higher then?
I certainly think the Grizzlies have the assets now to move up again if there's a player that they target. But how far is it worth giving up future picks? How many spots is that worth getting up in the draft? I don't think they're going to get much higher than 10th. And I think being in that top 10 allows Memphis to get a player they really like there. And someone's going to drop to them at 10 that perhaps they're not expecting to drop today. New Orleans paid a steep price to get those contracts off, to get some cost certainty now heading into free agency. That Lakers pick next season, that Memphis gets in a deal, and of course going from 17 to 10. Memphis has potentially 3 first-round picks in next year's draft, and obviously a chance here to get a really good piece at number 10. And this is obviously a team that's already gotten in the playoffs. We've seen that young core. You'll have Jaren Jackson Jr. back for the entire season next year. Memphis is really set up nicely now for the future. In New Orleans, they've got cap space now to go out and get involved with Kyle Lowry, perhaps a Spencer Dinwiddie. And if those things don't work out, they can now match an offer sheet or re-sign Lonzo Ball to a deal. So they've got the ability to kind of shore up that guard position and perhaps even get maybe more of an established older point guard in there, which I know David Griffin's wanted to do to kind of anchor that team.
And it's interesting on the Memphis side, too, when you talk about adding draft picks to their core. I mean, not only did they draft well in getting John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., the fact that those guys developed into stars early makes whoever they bring in now, they're all on the same timeline, really, which is incredible and not a position some of the other teams around the league are on. I do want to get to a non-draft item, though, because earlier today you reported Nets assistant coach Mike D'Antoni is leaving the organization. Is he retiring? Is he planning on pursuing another head coach opportunity? Why is he leaving Brooklyn now?
Yeah, definitely not retiring, Rachel. He came in and helped Steve Nash, who certainly he's had a long relationship with, and helped him through that first season as a head coach. And Mike D'Antoni was a finalist in Portland for that head coaching job, I'm told. He'd like to be a head coach again, but I don't think he wants to do the day-to-day grind of being an assistant again next season. If there's perhaps another role in the league somewhere else that isn't that day-to-day full-time assistant job, perhaps that might appeal to him. Obviously, the head coaching hiring cycle now is over for next year.
Yeah, it's so fascinating watching him and Steve this past season. Steve talking to us so much, Woj, as you know, about how valuable having Mike there was, especially when they had the transition with James Harden coming in. I know that organization wishes him well. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see a lot of you in the next 24 hours. I can't wait.
Thanks, Rach. See you soon.
All right, coming up, reports indicate rule changes are coming to cut down on jams of all time. Number 5, just earlier this year, Anthony Edwards.
Don't do that to Utah.
I mean,
Why? What did Utah do?
Utah Watanabe, don't do that to him. He's got to live with this for the rest of his life.
Look, we all have these moments. Not like that, but yeah, we all have those moments. Right?
If this was number 5, number 4 is Michael Jordan. So there we go. A little cradle racking for you.
Oh, the rock-the-bye baby.
That is gorgeous.
He could have done like 3 other things when he was up in the air there. File his nails, do some taxes. Number 3, Sean Kemp, also in MSG. They mean a little more in MSG, I'm not going to lie.
They do. Sean Kemp and Dominique Wilkins were my 2 favorite dunkers growing up until Vince showed up on the scene.
Rain Man. Those gorgeous Sonics uniforms.
Bring back the Sonics.
Rain Man.
Bring back the... Number 2, Vince Carter, speaking of. This was against the Pacers.
That's just a routine dunk for Vince Carter.
No, that is what's incredible.
But when we saw that to me was one of the greatest dunks I've ever seen. A 2-handed reverse windmill through traffic. Like,
up and under.
Up and under. Have you seen anybody do that with
and he just does it like it's nothing.
Number 1.
Oh no, look out!
Down his first ring.
In the Meadowlands. Not in the Izod Center or Continental Airlines Arena or whichever one you want to call it.
The Meadowlands.
You're lucky nobody got hurt.
Yes.
You're lucky he didn't get hurt. He, of course... If you've been over to Shaq's house, and many of us have, because that is where he held his retirement press conference.
At his house.
In his backyard area of his estate, there were a bunch of the backboards that he had ripped down over the years before they started reinforcing
He's still collecting
them.
those.
It's a
And now you
graveyard.
can't do that anymore. But
Graveyard of backboards.
yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Richard, I don't know if you ever tore down a backboard.
No.
But you did approach our producer, Michael Bodmer, earlier today.
This is not true. They were like, Richard, we're going to give you a highlight where you made honorable mention. I was like,
we put that in?
Yes.
That goes in this compilation?
That goes up. Look right there. I dunked on Bean Bryant. That's like one of the highlights of my life. I was a rookie.
And look at that.
He was like, look at that. I had hair. Are you kidding me? Like that to me, like because I hold him in such high regard, that to me is I was a rookie.
It's a big deal. I'm with you.
I'll give it to you.
I was a rookie and I dunked on Kobe in the NBA Finals, and Zach's like, I'll give that to you.
Okay, it's fine. Okay.
We lost 4-0.
Richard. I'm impressed.
Thank you, Rachel.
There you go.
I'm
there for you.
Thank you.
Let's talk to another rookie of which much is expected, the expected number 1, CADE Cunningham. Look, he has been highlighted as the number 1 pick for months and is finally here. Earlier today, he spoke with our Malika Andrews.
So it is the day before the NBA draft, and I'm here with CADE Cunningham. And CADE, you only worked out with one NBA team, the Detroit Pistons. What were your impressions of Detroit?
I love Detroit. I think, the facilities were big time. The people throughout the organization were really good people. And I think they got a lot of things going for them in the future. So definitely a good organization. If they take me, I'd definitely be happy to be in there.
Did you get a chance to explore the city at all? What did you think of it?
Yeah, I got to look around a little bit. They took me to a Tigers game, which was cool. So, Detroit was a great city. The people there were showing me love. So my trip in general was just a good trip.
I saw you talk a little bit about the fact that you're not from around there, but you travel there, and all of a sudden all of the fans at the baseball stadium are chanting your name. What did that mean to you?
It meant a lot. That's, it's a baseball game. I have, I don't think I had any baseball fans in there, but, to have a different venue show me love like that, it was special for sure.
So it is the night before the draft. What are the big plans today that you just need to check off your list before your big moment?
Spend some more time with the fam. Try to, go do something fun tonight, have a good night before, and then, I'm ready. I've been ready since last week, so I'm ready to get to draft night and see what team wants to take me.
Are you someone who sleeps before big events? Like, can you knock out, or is this something you're going to be up a little bit more racing?
I think I can sleep before like big games and stuff like that, but something like this, where I'm just having to sit in there and kind of hear my future. I don't know how I'm gonna sleep tonight, but we'll see. I'm gonna try to get some rest in. I'm gonna try.
Who are you most looking forward to sharing tomorrow night with?
My daughter, for sure. She's not gonna know what's going on in the moment, but I think, down the line she'll be able to look back on pictures and videos and stuff, and it'll be special for her. So, to have her there, I think that'll be special for me as well. You
mentioned that you only worked out with one team, Detroit. Detroit holds the number 1 pick. Why should you be the number 1 pick?
I think, just over the years, I feel like I've shown, through my play and who I am off the court that, I can come in and elevate, the people around me and organizations, things like that. So, like I said, I feel like my game has shown enough, and I feel like I can come in and be immediate impact, and I think that's what you want from a number 1 pick.
So fill in the blank for me. It is my welcome to the NBA moment. Pinch me. I know I am in the NBA when I am on the court playing against blank.
I'd say LeBron James. LeBron James, just because, he got a Space Jam movie now, so, that's Space Jam. So, LeBron has been somebody I've been watching growing up, a lot of inspiration for me. He's been to the finals pretty much every year I can remember, so to be on the court with him, that's going to be special for sure, but definitely a good, scale to see where I'm at, for sure.
Well, I'll be wishing you a good night's rest. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So much fun. Thank you, Malika. And I have news for Cade. It was lovely afternoon in the baseball stadium in Detroit. It's not like that in the winter time, but he'll be
playing as ourselves. Not too worried about stepping on each other's toes and understanding, the more aggressive that we are, the more opportunities that we open up for each other.
Book says they're figuring it out. Team USA bouncing back in a big way versus Iran. We're going to break it down.
They're really bouncing back, though.
The play-in tourney will return in 2022. Should they tweak it at all? We have opinions. You're going to be shocked. Woj just stopping by, and we're going to take a visit to the Rumorville. Oh, he's got the Woj bomb in hand. That's tremendous. It's draft week, so we're counting down the best rookie jams ever. Cancel all your plans. Your favorite show's favorite show. Tips now.
Welcome to The Jump, presented by Credit Karma.
Was I lying to you?
We are live from New York City. Take a look at the Brooklyn Bridge as we prepare for the NBA draft tomorrow across the river at Barclays Center. Welcome into The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols here in our South Street Seaport studio, joined by NBA champ, former Olympian, all-around bon vivant.
I don't know what that means.
Wow.
That word is fancier than Zach's new haircut.
Let's not go crazy.
Zach, you look
just
good.
Waiting to
I was
drop
just
that.
waiting. I was just waiting. I was like,
that.
look at Zach. I like it. Can we get a close-up of
So
that?
glad I came back in
Aren't
studio.
you?
That's
Aren't
a
you gonna
nice.
miss us?
It's not quite the high and tight, but that's nice.
Zach's been able to hide from his home setup for the past year and a half, and
Looks
that's
good.
over now for you, Zach. Richard Jefferson is on the case. Of course, our senior NBA writer, the host of The Low Post, Zach Lowe. No one does the pause like you, but I do give it a shot.
You give it a
when
shot.
I can. Let's get to Team USA, because after a disappointing loss to France in their opener, they did rebound in a big way, beating Iran 120-66. The Americans got a boost from Coach Pop's lineup changes, including Devin Booker, Drew Holiday coming in as starters, made 19 of 36 from three-point range. Now, the U.S. cannot win its group, but it is important to finish as the top number 2 team by scoring differential. This gets a little confusing, but I promise you it is important. The 3 group winners and the best number 2 team will be randomly drawn to face one of the other 4 teams to qualify for the quarterfinals in that round. Basically, if you can be that top number 2 team, that opens up a much easier path to the semifinals. Richard.
Yeah.
You, who has played Olympic basketball and has had some serious double-digit wins, what did you take away from the 54-point win here?
Absolutely nothing. I took away absolutely
Really?
No, it's not to be disrespectful to Iran. Like, obviously, this USA basketball team, the standard that we will hold them to is much different. But to me, when watching the France game, the thing that they were struggling most with, and I know what Pop preaches because I've been there with him and professionally and in USA, good to great, good to great. Well, the definition of a great shot for Dame Lillard is when he can shoot the ball. Right? The definition. And so they were passing up shots and guys were trying to make extra passes. And like Dame's like, a good shot for me is if I can get it up from pretty much anywhere. So when they're trying and get great shots, you're like, Dame, you see Dame passing up shots that he normally shoots. And I think that's what they're talking about, not stepping on each other's toes. It's like the definition of a great shot for Devin Booker or Dame Lillard on USA basketball is different from the NBA, and that's what they're adjusting to.
So I'm not even going to try to do any of that math stuff about point differential and random drawings. Let me
I skipped that.
Let me simplify it all for you. We got the best team. This is the only time I get to say we. We got the best team.
Yes.
We should win. Yeah, there's going to be these hiccups of, I don't know how to switch and I've never played with this guy and stepping on each other's toes and blah, blah. That's part of the deal. Like, we don't have the continuity. These guys didn't grow up playing club together like even some of the guys on France did and all that. We should win. That said, it's not going to be easy. The days of this being easy are over. This is an old school dream team score against Iran today. We're not going to have a lot of those. France is really good. Slovenia is really good. Australia looks really good. Spain is a perennial power. It's not a guarantee that we medal, but we're going to have games where we look unbeatable, games where we look mortal. And the games we look mortal, we're just going to have to find a way to dig them out. We have the best talent still.
Yeah, well, and the one thing that, to your point about the where you seed, because we didn't play well in our pool, we ended up getting number 2. Now
this is back in 2004. For those of you who don't remember,
I am a proud bronze medalist.
Did you track all this while you were playing?
I had no idea, because the internet was brand new. There was no social media.
Internet was brand
new. In 04, it was still using AOL online. So, but because we finished lower in our pool, our pathway was far harder. We had to go Spain, who was the number 1 overall seed, because they had both Gasol brothers, all the guys. And then the number 2 game was Argentina. So we beat Spain in the first round, lost to Argentina. If we would have gone the other side, it would have been a far easier path. So even looking back on that in hindsight, you want to finish as high as possible in your pool, because it can get very difficult.
2004, who was the best player on your team?
It was Tim Duncan, Allen Iverson. Everybody had their moment, but Tim Duncan was tough because of the FIBA rules. And Tim Duncan famously said, "What do you think about this?" He's like, "FIBA sucks." Those were his last parting words from the great Tim Duncan.
Well, my point was going to be that you had Tim Duncan and Allen Iverson on your team, and you're like, but they had the Gasol brothers. But
yes.
My larger point, though, is that, yes, it takes an adjustment to get used to those FIBA rules, as you're talking about. And it doesn't just take chemistry with the players between each other, but with the coaching staff. And we've talked about that on the Jump this week, about players maybe chafing a little bit under Pop's more structured system compared to Coach K when he ran the Olympic program. And you say passing up good to great. Yes, it's a good idea. We say the math problem in the NBA, 2 is more than 3, but 2 is more than 0.
Yeah.
So good shots are better than no shots, and it seems like they are figuring that out right now. We will have to see as they get through this round robin. All right, let's move over to the NBA, because the league released their key dates for next season, confirmed that the play-in tournament will in fact be back. The NBA's press release indicated the play-in will follow the same format as it did this past season. So as we take a look at some of the other key dates, you're going to scroll across your screen here. What tweaks do you want to see in future seasons, or do you wish they had made this time?
First of all, the whole thing is a home run. This is a no-brainer decision. Tweaks, look, the main plank of opposition to it is there's going to be a 7 seed at some point that is 5-6 games ahead. We saw it with Dallas 2 seasons ago. Yep. Should they be exempt? Like they used the standings trigger in the bubble. The problem is this is a TV property. The TV networks, need to be guaranteed a certain number of games and inventory.
That haircut is not cheap.
No, I love it.
That money.
They need to be guaranteed a certain inventory. The tweak, so I don't know how realistic that is. It's just going to be painful. And that 7th seed, when it happens, is just going to have to, guess what? Win once in 2 tries. You should still get in. The tweak I want to see, my tweak, the number 1 seed in each conference should be able to pick its opponent from the 2 teams that come out of the play-in tournament.
Why? We want it to be easier for a number 1 seed to walk over?
Yes, you do. Because if you're the number 1 seed, that means all year, 82 games, you have been the best team.
Guess what? You're playing number 8.
No.
Look what we just went through this whole thing where it's like, what if Utah has to play the Lakers in the first round?
Okay,
what if Utah has to play the Warriors in the first round? If we get into that situation, Utah should be able to say, you know what? We want Memphis.
You have just capsized your own argument. What if Utah has to play the Warriors in the first round? Guess what? The Warriors didn't even make it into the 8th seed.
But this is what everybody was saying.
Guess what? Utah should have been able to beat them.
I'm saying I'm all in favor of giving the teams, if we're going to say the regular season matters, and the NBA wants
I'm going to do it like Greeny does. I'm going to do it like Greeny does. I just put my sit up and just start drinking.
Look at my fancy shoes. If we're going to say the regular season matters, then make it matter. Give the number 1 seed a different kind of advantage. Give the number 1.
You're number 1.
Give the number 1 seed the margin to say LeBron is a.
Listen. I don't like it when mom and dad fight. So this is what I'm going to say. All right. This is what I'm going to say. At the end of the day, I understand your point. That's the one thing that I don't like about it is the 7 seed.
Oh, please. Put on your big boy shoes.
I agree, but I'm saying the 7 seed, you work for 82 games, and sometimes the 7 seed.
The number 1 side or the 7 seed?
No, I'm not talking about the 1 side. I'm talking about the 7 seed. The 7 seed, in my opinion, could be a 51-win team.
Right.
And all of a sudden, and if players get hurt or if something happens and you're like, hey, we could rest our players for the final 2 games to get ready for a 7-game series to really legitimately make a run at it. Like that to me is tough to be like, oh, you're the 7 seed. You have 6 more wins than everybody else, and you got to go to a play-in tournament. What if one of your players get hurt? And I understand that is to benefit 8, 9, 10 That's what it's the benefit, not the 7. And I think the 7, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually we're going to have a 7 seed that just has a bad string of luck, and that's going to be brutal.
The flip side of that, though, is that one of the cool things about the play-in tournament is it's created this race for 6 that adds a cool wrinkle to the regular season.
That to me was as nice a lovely surprise of this play-in tournament this past year as anything else. It kept teams from tanking. I thought when Mark Cuban said, not tanking so much, but just resting guys, but Mark Cuban said, yeah, this is going to be really hard for us to stay out of 7 because we can't rest guys down the stretch and have the final month of the season not matter. And my answer was yes. That is the point. You've articulated the point.
But there's good to that.
But here's what I would say. If I was going to do a tweak of what would trigger not being in the tournament, quote unquote, I think it's on the other side. So I think what they did in the bubble, whereas if you were too many games behind, you don't get that chance to play in. I don't know if we need to see the number 10 seed in each conference get this chance to make the playoffs if they are so far behind to 8 that they're not even relevant.
Oh, don't sleep. People are going to tank if they're in the 10th to try and get to the 11th, right? I really believe if you're like, oh, we're in the 10th and we could do this, it's like, well, we lose these games, because I think if you don't make that, then that's when the draft spots, you know better than me. So if you start losing games because you're like, we don't really care about the play-in ticket.
Then don't they do draft lottery order after though,
after play-in. But if you avoid the play-in, you're in the lottery.
You're in the lottery.
Is his point.
Yes, but
so if you're the 10th seed and you're like, we'd rather have a lottery pick than to play 1 extra game, 2 extra games.
My changes should be adopted. Yours may be adopted. That makes no sense. So I'm just.
I'm with Zach on the 7th seed.
But not the number 1 seed?
No, that's a little weird.
Thank you. We'll discuss this
picking your opponent.
Break more.
You guys are just wimps.
Wimps. That's fair. I'll take that.
We think that you should have to be a little tougher if you're.
I've been called worse by better, so that's fine.
Man, coming up in just 2 minutes is Chris Paul dropping hints about his future on Twitter.